So hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today I wanted to talk about something that's extremely important, and there are several things I think that are important for a person to lead a positive, happy, productive, meaningful life. And there are several things I think that contribute to that everybody knows about and everybody talks about. Number one is to eat right. Number two, exercise regularly. Number three, remember the phrase, chance favours the prepared mind. So planning. But one I think that's not really talked about very, very often is sleep. And I have to say, sleep is possibly the biggest thing to life. It's probably the biggest key there is to success, I would say. For me, I think, personally, that's what I feel. And yeah, so I'm going to discuss it now. Exercise is also important, which is what I love to do, so let's go for a walk. So excuse the background noise, apologies, I'm right next to the main road. So yeah, something I like to do at least once a day is go for a walk, because I think it's important not only to take a break from the work day, but it not only exercises the body, but it reinvigorates you. To take that break away gives you almost your mind and your brain a chance to almost relax and refresh. And often when you go back to work, you come up with awesome or innovative ideas that you might not have done if you were sat there staring at your screen. So it's hugely important. So what I want to do is effectively do a video series where I walk and talk. Why not? It gets me fitter and enables me to exercise more, but it also means I get to do my vlogs for YouTube at the same time, which surely makes sense. So anyway, sleep. So why is sleep so important? Well, there are several reasons. And the first of which is recharge. So the brain is almost like a giant battery, I guess. It powers the body. And at times, certainly throughout the day, it can become very depleted. And there are various ways that you can almost re-energize the brain. And number one is the obvious one, which is to eat something. You know, sugar, fat, protein, etc. all help to fuel the brain. So often when you have a meal and afterwards, you feel a bit more thoughtful. You're a bit more, you're with it, your brain's a bit more engaged again. The second one is exercise. You're out in the outside or in a gym, in a swimming pool, wherever it may be. You're exercising, you're reoxygenating the muscles, you're reoxygenating the brain, you're increasing the blood flow, all of which helps to recharge. Again, the brain's invigorated. But likewise, sleep is the same. Overnight, your brain effectively shuts down, doesn't it? To the conscious world, that is, anyway. But it's almost like it recharges overnight. It re-energizes. It takes a break from, what you're doing during the day, the thought processes, the movement and powering of the body. It takes a break and it kind of recharges overnight. And sometimes you just need that, don't you? You just need that kind of break. You need that kind of re-energize and relax, and for various reasons. And it makes you just feel so much better in the morning once you've had it. It really does. And you can tell when you haven't slept right. It's like you start off the day in the wrong way, and it's just not quite right. And sleep's hugely important for that. It's important for energy levels, because if you don't have that break, you don't have that recharge. And I've often found this, the day afterwards, you're a lot hungrier. You're eating a lot more. And because you kind of need that energy fix, you're more and more, probably for me, certainly, I'm at least 5 times more likely to reach for the junk food. Because in my body, I suppose, or my brain, or whatever, it sees it as a quick hit energy fix. So automatically, it's almost like the subconscious want of my brain is tuning into those bad foods to eat, which is not a good thing. And like, for example, today, you have to excuse me, I'm quite unfit. So if I sound out of breath, don't worry, it's okay. Like today, for example, I feel a lot more energetic. I feel a lot more invigorated. I feel a lot more energized. I feel like, I can concentrate more. I feel my energy levels just feel a bit higher, whereas yesterday or Whereas several days ago, I hadn't slept well for 2 or 3 nights in a row and I felt terrible. I didn't feel energetic at all. I just wanted to spend the whole weekend just laying around doing nothing or watching TV. And that's not good. And it's one of those things that, for me personally, sleep affects me massively. And I know there are others that say that it doesn't affect them at all. But for me, it's absolutely epic. It really is. It's the key. It's just like, it's the key to everything. It's almost like, you know, if you haven't got sleep right, forget about everything else, because it's just not going to happen. And, you know, that's it. So I think it's huge. I think it's an integral part of that. So that's the first thing I'd say, recharging. The second thing, which I already led into, was affecting energy levels for the following day. And I felt it was quite interesting that how I feel, you know, when I feel when I haven't had a good night's sleep, I feel far more lethargic. I feel like I don't want to get out. I don't want to get up and walk around or, you know, go exercising or go to the gym or go out and see people. I'm far more likely just to want to sit and laze around and eat bad things, you know, which isn't good at all, obviously. And it's important, I feel, because I think, and I guess 1 and 2 kind of go into each other, don't they? The recharging cycle isn't just about, you know, being energized. It's almost like, and funny enough, I remember as a kid someone said this to me, where they said it's almost like your brain files memories away, or it has a chance in the subconscious to think about what you've learnt that day and play with it and rearrange it and sort it out and file it. Now, I don't think that's true, because I don't think the subconscious is really built like that. I don't think there's any cognition in it as much. I view the subconscious as, let's think. Yeah, to me, the subconscious is sort of like the BIOS of the brain in computer terms. It's something that is almost rudimentary. It's really, really basic. It can't think and process things properly, but it can guide it. It's almost like a setting, and it can be one way or another way. And like the BIOS, the setting can be changed, generally through repetition. They generally say that's the key to the subconscious, is the repetition. So that's why, for example, you'll hear a lot of people that will, years ago, they used to recommend, if you wanted to do something like learn something, get a tape and then play it at night over and over again, like anything from the times tables to like a subliminal suggestion, you know. And it reminds me of that episode of Friends where Chandler decides he wants to lose weight. So, was it lose weight? So he has this tape and he puts the headphones on and goes to sleep with it, and it just says, you know, you will not eat, or you will lose weight, and, you know, you're a strong, confident woman. Anyway, my point is, I don't think the subconscious is like that, but I do think it's one of those things that can sometimes be reprogrammed with repetition. And it's the subconscious is the key, because it's almost the basis of where the habits are formed, and where these repetitive things that you do in your daily life that can sometimes be quite destructive are written, almost, or at least the settings for it are written. And, you know, and this comes into, and I apologise, I'm getting into the weeds a bit now rather than actually sticking on topic, but it's almost like if a habit is bad, or if a habit is destructive, then we call it a bad habit. If a habit is positive, we call it a good habit. And the subconscious is the key to both of that. But sleep all helps with this. It doesn't help necessarily reprogramming anything, but it helps you to recover, regenerate. And it's not just for the brain, but for the body too. For example, when I've been out and about and I've been active quite a bit, for example, I recently went to Germany for 2 or 3 days earlier in the year. And wow, you know, I was on my feet walking around, went to Cologne, and I was absolutely wrecked. Yeah, I was absolutely wrecked. You know, by the end of the day, I was so exhausted, so tired all over my body. Went to sleep, you know, wake up the following morning, yay, fresh as a daisy, all the aches and pains are gone, ready to go, you know. It's brilliant to have that recharge cycle, that refresh, that re-energisation. And it does it for the body, for the mind, for everything. It's just hugely important. You know, what happens when you're not energised for the day? As I said, you can't, you know, you're not as energetic, you don't want to do things, but it also affects the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is number 3, concentration. If you have a bad night's sleep, you really can't concentrate properly. You find it so much harder to stick with something. If you're working on something, you're far more likely to procrastinate. You're far more likely to go and look at other things rather than your work, like Facebook or some cute doggy pic or something, or videos or something on YouTube. You're far more likely to go off hunting for things. You're far more likely to take more breaks, and more eating breaks, conversely, with that as well. Because you're just not concentrating, you're not thinking. Not only that, you're not giving it your best. You're not your most creative either. You know, you can't always, you lose track of where you are all the time. You can't concentrate, you can't learn or absorb that new thing that you had to learn for work or for school or for college or whatever. And not only that, it's just wrecking your whole day. If you're not on form, you're not at your best. And if you're not at your best, people are going to notice you're not at your best. Then they're going to start to question. And it's not just about the lack of concentration. So I've covered the lethargy part, but then and also the lack of concentration. But it also brings us to point 4, irritability, moods. Sleep is hugely important for moods. You're far more likely to be very grumpy or very depressed if you haven't had a good night's sleep. In fact, if you had several nights where you haven't had a good night's sleep, well, you can be all sorts of things. It affects everything because it affects your hormone levels. And your hormone levels in your brain obviously control quite a bit. So it affects all sorts. You know, like I said, you know, when you think back to those times when you were depressed about something that had happened to you, for example, on that day, were you really that depressed? Or is it the fact that you had lack of sleep and it was hugely influencing your mood on the negative? Were you taking things more personally? Were you far more prone to be angry and lash out at somebody in an argument? More argumentative? Were you far more likely to see offence where none was meant? Were you just more down generally because of it? For me, sleep has a huge impact on my mood. For example, over the weekend, when I was not only lethargic, I was also extremely depressed. I wanted to just lock myself away from everybody and not talk to anybody. But the difference being, I knew that it was lack of sleep that was causing it. So I knew that I had to get to bed early and I had to have 2 or 3 nights of good sleep. And generally for me, I don't know about anybody else, but I find it's always 3. 3 seems to be the key for me. So for example, if I've had, let's say, 1 or 2 really bad nights sleep for whatever reason, and it not necessarily is negative, it could be a positive reason. For example, it could be that I've gone to a party or I've gone to a friend's wedding or, you know, or maybe I was travelling and it took me a long time to come home. I usually find it takes me 3 nights to get back on track. The first night is to recover from the sleep deprivation, you know, the physical shatteredness of it all. That's the first night. The second night is the emotional night that it takes me to get over it. You know, the depression, the sad feelings, etc. go after the second night. And on the third night is the irritability. Because once those feelings are gone, of lethargy and sadness, usually on day 3, I'm like a bear with a sore head. Extremely argumentative. You know, not seeing offence where none was meant. Becoming more defensive. Somebody says something extremely defensive. Takes me 3 nights, boom, I'm back on track. So mood is hugely affected by sleep, definitely. And lack of sleep to the negative. And next up, I guess, for number 5, I'm just going to say like a general overallness, an overall thought really, an overall, I guess, it's not really one a point, I suppose, it's just 5, it's just like, I guess you'd call it like a prepared mind really. I've always said, the Louis Pasteur quote, chance favours the prepared mind, is key to life. And I think you're far more likely to be reactive when you've not slept properly. You're going to be not proactive, because you're going to be out of your routine, you're going to be out of your sync, you know, and you're just going to take the day as it comes because you're just so shattered you can't bother to do anything else. And that's where things lead to being worse, because you're not as prepared. Things are going to come out of left field, as the things are going to come out of left field, as the Americans say. You're not going to be able to cope with them as easily because you're not going to have prepared for them. And you're not going to be as on the ball in terms of concentration or anything else. And when you combine all of these together, you know, it shows that sleep just has a huge impact on, I think, on people in general. But sleep is also interesting, isn't it? Yeah, I can discuss what I feel are the positives and negatives, but there are also other things to do with sleep as well. For example, what is good quality sleep? Well, we know sleep is basically split into two parts, don't we? Which is the rapid eye movement part. That's the part where your brain is, you know, active and dreaming, and your eyes are moving around, and, you know, sometimes you get the really cool dreams where you can fly. Other times you get the really horrible nightmares where you're running from somebody trying to, you know, stab you like in a slasher flick or something. And those generally occur at different points in the night, don't they? I don't know the full science of it, but I know that they occur more commonly towards the end of the night than they do at the beginning, because at the beginning you have more of the deep sleep. And the deep sleep is hugely important. The deep sleep is the one, for me, that affects my mood, affects my sadness or happiness, affects my argumentativeness. The REM sleep, obviously, helps with the concentration, the thought processes, the creativity. So you're not always, when you have a bad night's sleep, you're not always, it's not a done deal that the whole thing is bad. You know, sometimes you can have a lot of REM sleep, but you don't have a lot of deep sleep. So you can feel shattered, but you can still concentrate and you're still able to function. And that's where I think the key, a lot of this comes into, this is just my opinion again and my observations. Generally, I always say there are two types of people. You get an owl and you get a lark. So an owl is someone who generally prefers to sleep either during the day or sleep late. You know, they're those people that kind of generally prefer to go to bed late at night. So, you know, for somebody who's going to bed at 10 p.m, for example, is incomprehensible to an owl. They hate it. Yeah, an owl might want to go to bed, for example, at 2 a.m. because they want to watch movies or whatever, and they want to get up late. You know, gamers, for example, maybe an owl. Somebody who enjoys playing video games and chatting to their friends late at night, because it's easier to do late at night. Nobody's working. It's quieter. There may be less drain on the broadband. It's you know, and it's just a nice feeling at night, isn't it, sometimes? It can be cooler if you're in a hot country. There are lots of reasons for it. And they may wake up during the day. So, for example, they may go to bed at 2 in the morning and wake up at 10 in the morning, or 11 or 12. And that's when they start the day. Now, conversely, on the opposite, you have the larks. And the larks are the ones that sing up with the birds in the morning. The lark will prefer to go to bed at 9 or 10 p.m. at max, at the latest. They want to be up at 4 or 5 a.m. singing with the birds, because that's the way their natural body rhythm is. They get the best night's sleep that way, and therefore they can function better during the day when they do it. Me, for example, I'm most definitely a lark. Now, that's not to say I don't like staying up late. I love staying up late. Being a lark or an owl isn't about what you want. It's about what your body naturally gravitates towards. You know, I want to be an owl, but my body doesn't do that. It's going against my body. And if I go against my body, it doesn't work. I'm not as productive. It just doesn't work at all. And again, I apologise for the noise. I'm near a sewage plant. So I do love walking around in nature around here, but there are some noises. So I apologise in advance if you can hear that in the background. Yeah, and it's not about, as I say, it's not about what you want. It's just one of those things. I have no control over it as such, you know. If I switch myself to an owl hours, I can do it. I'm not saying I can't, but I won't be as productive. I won't be as happy. I won't be as, well, I won't have the quality. And I most definitely will eat more. That's just the way it is for me. And the thing is, nearly everyone I ask says they're an owl. And I think it's because they like the idea of staying up late. And I've even said to people, are you really an owl? Have you tried being a lark? Now, I know it doesn't sound cool, but it really is the most productive. Because think about it. Why is it sometimes that you're late for work? Why is it you're distracted at work? Is it because you've thought of things in the morning and you haven't had time to do them, your personal things? You haven't had a chance to do your personal things before you go into work? Well, what if you woke up at 4 a.m. and you could spend 2, 3, 4 hours doing your personal stuff before you even got to work? Then your mind would be clear and you'd be clear to focus on the tasks at work. You'd be able to plan, you'd have time, you'd be relaxed, you'd have time to catch up on your emails, to plan your work day more efficiently, to grab a coffee on the way to work. You'd be able to leave earlier possibly and get past all that traffic and breeze into work, completely happy in the knowledge you've got all of your personal stuff out of your way and you've got half of your workday planned already, because chance favours the prepared mind. So, from this video, it's kind of obvious which side I'm on. I'm most definitely Team Lark. There's no question of that. And there's nothing more gratifying to me than when I know someone who's an owl and they've come back to me and said to me, do you know what, I listened to what you were saying the other day actually, and it quite shocked me. So I gave being a lark a try, and do you know what? My life has completely changed. It's awesome. I had a friend who did it, and I was kind of like, good for you, because obviously that lifestyle was changed is quite a big one. In terms of sleep quality, 1 hour before midnight is worth 2 after. And again, it's something huge. It's a life lesson I've learned, and it's something that I definitely find to be true. 1 hour of sleep before midnight is worth 2 hours of sleep afterwards. But the question is, why is that? And there is a reason. It's generally because deep sleep occurs at the beginning of the cycle of sleep, not the end. And deep sleep isn't just something that will automatically come about the moment you shut your eyes and go to sleep. Like most things in nature, or cells in nature, sometimes they're based on circadian rhythms. That is the sunlight in terms of, when the sun rises and the sun sets. Because, and I apologise for the noise, animals generally gravitate towards the sun, like most things on the earth. Animals, plant life, we all pretty much gravitate around the sun. Most of us gain our energy at some point. Most of the food we consume and most of the energy we use is from the sun. Whether it's from a hydrocarbon from a decomposed animal in the ground, or whether it's from food that we consume, whether it be vegetarian or meat-based. It's all energy provided from the sun. And likewise, most animals generally cater to a certain rhythm of the sun, whether it be day or night. For example, there are animals that are nocturnal that are most definitely on the nighttime scale of things, whereas there are most others, for example, are on the sunlight side. Humans, for the most part, are circadian rhythm based. And we can tell that because if you look at some of the medical data, you see things like certain illnesses are more prone to people at night. For example, I remember reading an article a long time ago where they reckoned that night shift workers who predominantly work at night on average live 10 years less than a person who would work during the day, which is quite shocking when you think about it. But what do we get during the day? Well, first of all, things like vitamin D from the sunlight, which is important, and it's absorbed through the skin. And these days, even now in the last year, we've discovered vitamin D's importance. Not just for things like stopping SAD or seasonal affective disorder, which that sort of thing, the thing that people get when they live in predominantly winter countries and they don't get as much sunlight and they're depressed all through winter. But also, vitamin D has even been linked to things like COVID-19 recovery rates and recovery much faster. But it's also other things like, for example, you hear night workers are more prone to things like heartburn, acid indigestion, stomach ulcers. Doesn't mean you'll get it necessarily, but I think they're more prone to it. So, for me, it's not by choice, but I know that I lead a far more productive and healthier life if I get a good night's sleep. And like I said, concentration comes from the REM portion. So, for example, I'm someone who struggles a lot in the summer. I really do. Because I generally, as I said, if I'm a lark, it's a lot harder to go to sleep because at 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night, it's still light in the summer. Not only that, certainly in the UK, in the summer, the sun will often come up at 3:30 in the morning, so you really don't get much sleep at all. And in fact, if you go to near the summer solstice and you look at how much daylight we have versus nighttime, believe it or not, in the UK, we actually have 1 minute of nighttime on the summer solstice. 1 minute, and that's in June. So for someone like me, I really struggle. So the question is, if it's a lot harder for you to get into, for example, a lark lifestyle of sleeping, what can you do to help? Well, isn't it interesting how I think some people, and I know them, where they can literally shut their eyes and go to sleep. And oh, how we envy those people. Those people that, for example, will go on holiday, will sit on a plane, and they're already asleep before the plane's even left the taxiway. And the next thing you know, we've landed in whatever foreign country we want to go to for a nice holiday, and they wake up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and ready to go. Whereas the rest of us are still, red eye. It's just funny, isn't it? And there are other people like me who are extremely light sleepers, where the slightest noise will wake us up, and it will take us ages to get to sleep. The average time it's supposed to take for the average human to go to sleep is 10 minutes, but some people like me may take an hour. So the question is, what can you do to help for the sleep? And there's quite a few things actually. And I think the first thing is the mental preparation. It's mental. And for me, what I do is, I say, right, if I know I want to be in bed at a certain time, I want to be asleep at a certain time, I have to stop what I'm doing during the day. I have to have a cut-off point. So what I do is, for example, 7 p.m. is my cut-off, because you want to leave quite a bit of time before you have to go to sleep, before you relax. And that's important. If you feel pressured to sleep, if you feel like, you've got to get up early in the morning and you've got to be somewhere or you've got to do something, forget it. You're not going to be able to sleep very easily. If you put pressure on yourself because you've got insomnia that you want to sleep, forget it. You're not going to sleep easily. And that's why they all say to insomniacs, get rid of the clocks. Don't have a clock anywhere near you, because you're just putting pressure on yourself. So I think the key a lot of the time is, if you take that pressure away and say, right, okay, let's not wait. I'm going to start winding down to go to sleep, not an hour before I have to go to bed, just in case that hour isn't sufficient and I wind myself up into thinking I'm going to get to sleep. No, if that's the case, then you try and go to bed hours before, because then there'll be no pressure on you. Sit down 1, 2, even 3 hours before you have to go to bed. And they often say this, don't they? If you have a bedtime routine, don't do it literally the moment before you fall asleep. Do it beforehand. Make sure you do the washing up before the 7 p.m. deadline. Make sure if you're wearing makeup or whatever, make sure you take it all off well in advance of before you go to sleep. Don't do it 10 minutes before you're sleepy-eyed and then go and take your makeup off. You'll wake up again, because your brain is concentrating on a task. It's going to wake up. No, 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 no. You need to do all of that before the 7 o'clock deadline, or 7 o'clock deadline, right, that's it. I'm going to do the washing up, I'm going to tidy up quickly, I'm going to take the makeup off or get changed into my sleeping clothes, and then I'm going to relax for the evening. Now, there are various ways people relax, and I'm not one for, a lot of people will tell you, no, you can't watch TV to relax. You've got to read a book or something. No, I don't agree with that. I think every single person has a different way of relaxing to get to sleep. Completely different. For me, it's watching TV. I find watching TV really relaxing. There are certain things I like to watch, or certain shows, or certain, films that I like to watch. And people always say, no, but watching TV wakes me up. And I say to them, it depends on what you watch. If I need to go to bed, I need to be asleep, or I want to be sleepy, then you don't watch something interesting. If you start watching an action movie where your adrenaline's going to start pumping, or a film you're really interested in, it's not going to work. Your brain's going to buzz. You're going to go, yeah. Believe me, it makes all the difference, because I've done it. I've sat there watching something I found really interesting, and I'm like, it's 10:30. Why am I tired? Normally I'm tired. And at that point, I switched to something else. Like for me, I think it was, yeah, I started watching a film and I started watching a director's commentary on it. Because it's mildly interesting, but it's not interesting, it's going to keep me awake. And the next thing I know, without word of a lie, within less than 10 minutes, I was sleepy and ready for bed. That much of a change, that quickly, in 10 minutes. Now, your thing may not be TV. It may be listening to music, for example. And that's true, again, music is very relaxing, but it can't be something you're interested in. It can't be a band you've never heard before or an album you've never heard before, because that will keep the brain open. The brain will be processing it and trying to remember it, and then you'll be singing that song all night, not going to sleep, which is not what you want. It has to be something you've heard before, something you find relaxing, not energising. For some people, it's reading a book, whether it be print or something else. Print is probably better, they say, you know, but I don't know about that, because you have to turn lights on, and lights isn't good, because you don't want serotonin mixing around, you want melatonin. You want to be going to sleep, you don't want to be switching lights on. And the same with TVs, like I was mentioning earlier, really, I suppose. You've got to put the blue light filters on, if that's something that you're sensitive to. For me, it doesn't seem to bother me at all, blue light. I just go to sleep anyway. It's not really an issue for me. It's getting the brain to disengage that's the issue for me. Don't watch anything or don't do anything that's going to make you overthink. And next thing you know, by 9, if you, let's say it's 7 o'clock like I do, by 9:30, sometimes even by 8:30, I'm ready for bed. I'm heavy-eyed. My body is comfortable. It's like, actually, I'm ready for bed. And that's something that's had a problem for me, where sometimes I'm actually ready for bed too early. It's 8 o'clock. It's like, ugh. But no, I say try some of these things, try different techniques, try going to bed way, way, way in advance of the time you need to, if you have problems sleeping or getting sleep. And it may be that none of this works for you at all, and you're not interested, you want to be an owl. Who cares? Do what's right for you. You know, but I'm just saying, for me, I think sleep's hugely important, and getting a good night's sleep is hugely important. And these are the things that help me, and perhaps they help you, I don't know, hopefully they will. But sleep sets you up. Sleep is the key to unlock everything else. You know, who wants to be tired and then automatically gravitating towards a bad diet, and then you're hating yourself because you're eating rubbish? Whereas if you were more energetic and you had a good night's sleep, you might not reach for the junk food at all. It's far easier to fight when your brain's fully engaged and working. Anyway, so that's sleep. That's why I think sleep is important, and that's why for me, I will always be a lark rather than an owl, and why I will always use sleep within my daily routine to help me become a more positive and a more productive person. And if you watch this and you agree, give me a thumbs up. And even if you don't agree and you like the video, give me a thumbs up as well. Because if you give me a thumbs up, I know to do more. And definitely hit the subscribe button, because I plan to be doing all sorts of weird stuff. And, well, why not? Helps the channel out, helps me out, helps me hopefully grow. I'm a new YouTuber. I've only started in the last month, and I'd love to make the channel grow. I'd love to do content creation more. So hit me up in the comments as well. Let me know what you think. Do you think that I'm right in what I say, or actually for you something else completely different works? And tell me what does work for you, because it'd be interesting to share with everybody. Maybe they have the same feelings. Maybe it's something I can help bring into my routine to help me too. Anyway, with that, I'll catch you later.